That's not often when a day comes around where I actually give praise to Donald Trump. Think about that. It's kind of savor it, I guess, if you're a Trump supporter. Because, again, this is incredibly rare. So why? Why the praise? Well, apparently, Trump made a decision yesterday that was actually a good decision. Weird. He has officially ended the practice of having the CIA arm rebels in Syria. Again, why the praise? Like, why is that a good thing? Well, I'm going to explain why. There are several reasons, and before I get into what they are and into the details, let me just preface this with the fact that I'm aware that, or at least in my opinion, I don't think Donald Trump did this because he doesn't want us involved in the Middle East. Donald Trump has shown that he has no problem with bombing innocent people in Yemen and supporting the Saudis. In fact, he's been bombing people everywhere. Since Donald Trump took over, civilian deaths in the area in these bombings have actually increased dramatically. So that's the opposite of what we want. I criticized Barack Obama for continuing to bomb the Middle East in places like Yemen and Somalia and, with the drones. Well, since Donald Trump took over, he actually increased all of that. And it's even worse. So there's even more civilian deaths. Okay? So it's not because he gives a crap about civilians. He's also not doing this, I think, because he believes that we shouldn't be arming terrorist groups. Again, what we're doing here is he's fine with giving Saudis weapons. Saudis finance a lot of different terror groups. So he's fine with them. No. What he's doing is that he's doing this because Assad is winning. It's the same thing with the ceasefire. Assad is winning. Assad is aligned with Putin. Okay? And Trump, for whatever reason, wants to have much, much better relations with Vladimir Putin. So that's helping him out. Nonetheless, that said, he's actually doing the right thing, albeit for all the wrong reasons. So let me explain. Let me go into detail and tell you why arming these groups is a terrible idea. Now, first, details to this decision, according to the Washington Post. Now, President Trump has ended the clandestine American program to provide arms and supplies to Syrian rebel groups. American officials said, a recognition that the effort was failing and that the administration has given up hope of helping topple the government of President Bashar al-Assad, something that we shouldn't be doing anyway. Now, the decision actually came more than a month ago, by which time the effort to deliver the arms had actually slowed to a trickle. So this isn't new, but it had just came out. It joined similar failed efforts to deliver arms and money to groups seeking to overthrow governments that Washington found noxious. Most famously, the Kennedy's administration's disastrous effort to do away with the government of Fidel Castro in Cuba. So, look, here you have the Washington Post saying, dude, this doesn't work. Okay, this joins another failed attempt to overthrow governments by giving weapons to people who just happen to be against those governments. We don't care who they are. We don't care if they're jihadis. We don't care who they are. We're just going to throw some weapons at them and say, here you go. Take out this guy that we don't like. That's against our interests. Well, that's stupid. That's a ridiculous policy, and I'm actually glad that we're doing away with that in this instance. So, if it doesn't work, why are people defending it? I'm scanning articles, in preparing for this story. I saw a whole bunch of articles from the establishment, from New York Times, Washington Post, even Democrats saying, oh my God, what are we doing? No, we just gave a win to Putin. We just gave a win to Assad. That bad. We should arm all these groups. Yeah, but we don't even know who these people are. Actually, you know what? I take that back. We actually do know who at least some of these people are, and they're not very good people. Okay. But first, again, when it comes to defending this, why defend it? Well, there's almost no answer to that, except maybe to prop up weapons manufacturers. That's actually maybe the best answer to that. Now they continue. From the start, there were doubts that arming disorganized, often internally fractious forces would succeed. No kidding. Officials in the Obama administration conceded that there was no way to predict the future loyalties of those who received American arms, despite what they call a lengthy vetting process. That problem, getting the weapons into the right hands and assuring they were not passed on to others and used against American troops or allies, plagued the effort soon after it was proposed by Hillary Clinton, who was then Secretary of State, and David Petraeus, CIA director at the time. Well, you know those doubts, right? Those doubts were verified, because it turns out that some of those weapons we gave to the so-called moderate Syrian rebels, which, by the way, doesn't exist. Sure, maybe they existed at the beginning, right? There were some moderate people that were fighting against Bashar al-Assad, but they don't exist anymore. Those weapons ended up in the hands of terrorists. Terrorists. Okay. And look, it's not just me saying this. This isn't just some crazy, oh my God, you're a Putin robot. You're defending Assad. You love Assad. You love terror. No, 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 no. This isn't me saying this. This is CENTCOM. This is the U.S. Central Command. They walked this back. Okay. Originally, they had previously denied that their weapons end up in the hands of terrorist groups, but then they walked it back in a statement. They said today the NSF unit, the new Syrian force, contacted coalition representatives and informed us that on September 21st through the 22nd, they gave 6 pickup trucks and a portion of their ammunition to suspected Al-Nusra Front intermediary, which equates to roughly 25% of their of their issued equipment. And this is a statement from Colonel Patrick Ryder, who is a spokesman for CENTCOM. You can look this shit up, okay? They're basically admitting that, oh yeah, like 25% of our stuff ended up in the arms of Al-Nusra. Al-Nusra! Okay? They said, if accurate, the reports of NSF members providing equipment to Al-Nusra Front is very concerning and a violation of Syria Train and Equip Program guidelines. And if you're wondering who the Al-Nusra Front is, that is an Al-Qaeda affiliate. So again, these are terror groups. So we were giving weapons to terrorists. This isn't like arming Kurdish fighters, which the Kurds are actually one of the most stalwart allies that we have in the area. They're the ones that are actually fighting against ISIS. Okay? But no, we're not giving weapons to them. We're giving weapons to, or at least we were before this, we were giving weapons to Al-Nusra, the jihadis. Come on, man. Come on. Now, look, do you see why it's a bad idea to arm the Syrian rebel groups? My heart breaks for the civilians that are caught in the middle of this. But you know what? Maybe instead of giving them weapons, maybe we should actually, I don't know, allow refugees to come to America. I mean, think about it this way, right? Imagine giving the people that are running from Assad, right? They're not only running from Assad, they're running from Al-Nusra, they're running from ISIS, they're also running from our bombs, they're also running from Russian troops that are also there. Instead of, you know, giving them guns, maybe we should let them, you know, into the country so they can escape from what they were running from. Again, they're running from all the bad groups that we regularly demonize. Okay, we're so scared of, right? Oh my God, you got ISIS, you got all these different groups that are fighting in Syria. What a mess! It's so terrible. We got to do something. Well, the best thing to do is humanitarian aid and allow refugees. We vet them, of course. We vet them. We have actually one of the strongest vetting systems that we have out of a lot of nations. Okay, we've got stronger vetting practices than Europe. Okay. And so we vet them and we let them come over there or come over here to escape that hell that we have helped put this area into. Now, instead of doing that, I've criticized Trump for banning refugees, which I think is the wrong thing to do. But at least on this, he's like, well, might as well not give these terrorist groups more weapons. But again, he's doing it for the wrong reasons. Now, as far as Assad goes, you know my thoughts on him, or maybe you don't, but here they are. He's a bad guy. He's a terrible person, okay? But at the same time, should we go around overthrowing all the autocrats? No! No, no, no. We should not be doing more regime change. We've done that far too often with disastrous results. This is not something that we should be doing. We shouldn't be going around overthrowing governments we don't like. just because it might make us feel better. No, we end up completely destroying the balance of power in those regions, creating giant power vacuums where groups like ISIS, Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda can thrive and then later on attack us. It's not smart. Okay. Now, look, if this means that I agree with Trump on one thing and let Putin have a win, so be it. Because this is actually the right thing to do. And look, it's not like they were going to topple Assad anyway. They weren't. They were actually losing. And even if they did, you have to wonder, okay, if Assad's gone, then who takes his place? See, we don't think about those things. We don't consider what's going to happen in the aftermath. It's all about let's bomb now, let's bomb now. We don't take the foresight to look at what's going to happen if we create this giant power vacuum. We didn't look at it in Iraq and look at how that turned out. We didn't look at it in Afghanistan. How did that turn out? We still have troops in Afghanistan. Iraq is still a mess. No, we shouldn't be doing this. And here's the other thing, right? Oh, also look at Libya. That also turned out to be a mess, a disaster. Okay? And the other thing is, look, there are Russian troops that were fighting against troops that we armed in those areas. Those are the, people that we armed are fighting against Russian troops. In a way, our weapons are being used against the Russians. Now, could that lead to an escalation of a conflict? It's possible. And that's another thing that I would like to avoid. Now, that's not because I like Russia. That's not because I'm a friend of Putin. I despise Vladimir Putin. He is an autocrat. He is a dictator. He's not a good person. But at the same time, that doesn't mean I want to bomb them. That doesn't mean that we should be okay with attacking Russia or attacking Syria or their allies or attacking Iran. No, we shouldn't be attacking people. That's the problem. We need more of an anti-war left to push back against the establishment that is the neoconservative establishment that loves war. I do not like war. I don't think that we should be in wars. There are other ways to do things, okay? There are other ways to be tough on Putin. Sanctions, for one. Diplomatic pressure, two. Let's not do this, okay? Our first reaction should not be to bomb people. It turns out that this is a very complex situation. Adding our weapons and doing these ridiculous proxy wars is not helping the situation. And you got to think, how many civilians are being killed and losing their homes through this ridiculous wars, and as a result of our weapons. And whatever happens, those weapons later on could be turned against us because it's already happened. It's already happened in Afghanistan. We gave the weapons to the Mujahideen under Osama bin Laden. And later on, they turned those same weapons against us to kill American troops. Do you see why arming these groups is not a good idea? We need to stop being we need to stop arming the world. Stop being the world's arms supplier. I know it makes our defense contractors filthy rich, and that's why we continue to do it. But it's ridiculous. We should not be doing this. Okay? We can oppose Putin, we can oppose Assad, but we can do it with nonviolent means. That's what I'm trying to say. When are we going to learn that we can't just keep sending in the CIA to arm radical groups to try to overthrow governments? I mean, what are they thinking? Like, no, this time, it's not going to backfire on us whatsoever. Everything's going to turn out fine. It's going to be great, and there's going to be democracy and puppies and rainbows. That's never how it turns out. It always turns out disastrously. Not just for us, but for people in that country. And look, it's hard to say that that Syria could get worse. But imagine a giant power vacuum and then something worse than ISIS moving into it. That's the possibility. Because, again, we've seen this happen before. So, look, I got to point out, the one positive thing that the Trump administration has done is that he stopped this ridiculous program. Even though he likely did it to please Putin, to please Assad, at this point, I don't really give a shit. Because at the end of the day, the right thing is still the right thing. Again, we need a, you know, it's tough to see that the left has unfortunately, you know, become more pro-war. What happened to the anti-war left? What happened to the progressives, the liberals who were out there fighting against stupid, unjust wars? Where are you guys? Where are you? Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.